Sparty's 2-0 with a date in Coral Gables to take on the Miami Hurricanes. We got Ryan O'Blennis on the line from The Only Colors, the SB Nation platform for Michigan State athletics, to talk up Michigan State football again at 2-0. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on, Mark.
Appreciate it. Absolutely. So Michigan State football. Of course, I'm going to take us back a couple of years just to give a little context here. Of course, Mark D'Antonio did an amazing job, especially over the first half of his tenure there at Michigan State. Unprecedented what he accomplished there. They turned more into a 7 or 8 win football program for the final few years there. Mel Tucker takes over, obviously has to face a difficult task in a pandemic year of starting over. It seems as though here in year 2, it's only 2 games under his belt, though, but they go on the road. They dominated Northwestern. Just your thoughts about Mel Tucker, what he brings to the program, his approach, and his style.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, last year he got in right before COVID, and it was kind of an awkward time. The team didn't have any, spring ball got canceled, in-person workouts got canceled, the season was delayed. There were all kinds of obstacles to get through. And, this year they actually had a spring ball and they had, summer workouts, and they've been able to actually install the offense and the defense throughout the off season and all that kind of stuff. So, what Tucker has really done is built the culture in the way that he wants the team to look. He hit the transfer portal very hard with, they had several players transfer out of the program, but they also had, they added well over 35 scholarship players between freshmen and new transfers. So, he's built the team now in his vision, and he's laying the groundwork and the foundation for future success. So, Spartan fans are pretty happy with the job he's doing there. And he's also picking up a lot of momentum on the recruiting trail.
So quarterback situation where Peyton Thorne battled Anthony Russo during the offseason. There was a decision made very late in camp. Who knows whether they had a pretty good feel as to which way they were going, or if it actually did go as late as it was announced. Your thoughts about Peyton Thorne's development and what his style of play?
Yeah, so far through 2 games, he's looked impressive. The first game against Northwestern, Kenneth Walker III dominated on the ground. Thorne didn't have to do too much, but he played a very efficient game. He didn't turn the ball over. He led the offense. He did what he was supposed to do. He put the ball where either only his guys could get it or nobody could get it. This last game against Youngstown State, he showed off a little more of the arm on a couple of deep balls to Jaden Reed. He's shown his mobility. I think the team is really starting to rally around him. He's, going to improve as a leader every day. The fact that he was able to beat out Anthony Russo, who was coming in from Temple as a graduate transfer with a lot of experience, that bodes well for the confidence that the staff has in Thorne, and also, his future development, because if he's able to do that now at this stage in his career, just as a redshirt sophomore, the future looks bright for him. And so far, so good with Thorne.
Please like the video, share the videos out on social media, and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. Check out The Only Colors, catch up on Michigan State athletics right there. And, of course, football is first and foremost right now, this time of year, at least for a few months. That basketball program gets a little of attention from time to time. All right, looking at the running back situation, you mentioned Kenneth Walker. I had seen him play quite a few times at Wake Forest. Had 1,100 yards and 17 touchdowns over 2 seasons. So productive back there. Comes to Michigan State. I don't think anybody was expecting like a 264 spot his first game, 4 touchdowns against Northwestern. But he's a pretty impressive back. Yeah,
very much so. He actually played against Michigan State when he was at Wake Forest in the Pinstripe Bowl in 2019. I think they actually bottled him up pretty good that game. But yeah, so Walker had very high expectations coming into the season, but as you mentioned, I don't think anybody expected him to do what he did in that game against Northwestern. I was there in the press box actually, and the first play of the game, he just took it 75 yards, and you knew this kid was going to be special and he was going to have a really good game, probably going to have a really strong season. They didn't let him go too wild against Youngstown State this past week. He only had, I believe, 7 carries, something like that. Still made some plays. He scored a touchdown still. They let Jordan Simmons and the other backs run it more, but I think Walker is going to be a big part of the game this week against Miami Hurricanes, and moving forward this season, he's going to be the leader of the offense outside of Thorne.
This team was a 3-point underdog on the road against Northwestern, the team, of course, that has won 2 of the last 3 Big Ten Western Division titles. I don't think a whole lot was expected out of Michigan State football, despite 2 pretty impressive wins last year against Michigan and Northwestern. The rest of the year was pretty dismal. And again, we could only, it was a guessing game as to how much we could really take into account 2020. So outside of the Michigan State media fan base, not a lot expected of this team. So I think people took notice of that 3-score victory against Northwestern. And then even though it was just Youngstown State obviously dominating that game, it was over at halftime. Is this a surprise to you in regards to what position Michigan State's placed itself in going into week 3 here?
Yeah, I think it was, this team was just a complete mystery entering the season because it's such a different roster compared to the 2020 team. Like I said, so many transfers, new freshmen, a lot of people who transferred out, other people who, pursued the NFL. It's just a very different team. A lot of people looked at that Northwestern game as kind of, a toss-up, but probably Northwestern was going to win it. But MSU always kind of plays Northwestern tough, and it's usually a close game. I expected a really close game. I thought MSU could win it. I didn't expect them to come out and dominate the way that they did, especially offensively, because this team has been so stagnant on the offense the past, previous 3 seasons or so. So, it's good to see a team that can actually move the ball. And like I said, Tucker rebuilt this roster and his vision, and they're starting to see the payoff to that. So, yeah, I think that, so far they've definitely exceeded expectations. We'll see how good Northwestern actually ends up being. They lost a lot from that Big Ten West championship team from last year, too. Obviously, Youngstown State was just a FCS program. They had some good athletes and stuff, but FCS teams generally don't compete as well with FBS teams. It's not always the case, but MSU dominated them like they're supposed to. So I think this coming week in Miami is going to be the toughest game yet. We're going to see what this team's actually made of.
Please join us on Patreon. You get my predictions there, 17-7 against the spread last weekend. We got 20 media panel members with their predictions as well, insider look, and so forth there on Patreon. Just grab the link in the description section or just go to Patreon, Mark Rogers TV. All right, we got Ryan O'Blennis on the line from the Only Colors SB Nation platform for Michigan State. The defense was a hallmark under Mark D'Antonio, of course, when they were going to Rose Bowls and Cotton Bowls and finishing in the top 5 to 10 in the nation, especially the defensive front. Of course, secondary play. How do you size up this defense?
Yeah, so far it's a little bit of a work in progress. They gave up some explosive plays to Northwestern in the passing game, a little bit of kind of bend, don't break. They're running a 4-2-5 kind of base defense under defensive coordinator Scotty Hazelton. And, so you got more defensive backs on the field more often than not. The pass rush looked a little bit better last week compared to the first week, but they had a lot of defensive ends out too. So some of the younger guys were actually making plays, which was a good thing to see. And a guy who a lot of MSU fans weren't expecting to make a big impact or even start is Cale Halliday at linebacker, who's, he's really been impressive through 2 games. So like I said, it's a little bit of a work in progress still. They're giving up some big plays, and, they kind of struggled on 3rd and 4th down, even against Youngstown State. But, they keep teams off the scoreboard. They allow some yards, but for the most part, they've kept the opponents off the scoreboard so far, till later in the game. So that's ultimately the goal, right? But, there's some things that need to be shored up there for sure.
Xavier Henderson filling up the box score, 17 tackles total, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a pick through 2 games already. Michigan State at Miami. I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's at least the stereotypes is that it's a measure of contrast. You know, Michigan State from the Big Ten, they're going to be ground and pound, and Miami fleet wide receiver is going to throw the ball around. I think that's a little bit overplayed. Still, you got a very mobile quarterback in De'Ara King, a very athletic team, a team that was ranked in the top 15 to start the season before they hit that Alabama juggernaut, as you mentioned. So this is a really good measuring stick for Michigan State entering or getting back into Big Ten play.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you bring up De'Ara King. I think he's going to need to be a big focus of the game plan for the Michigan State defense containing him, you know, both in the pass game and the running game. You know, Miami, they always have a lot of speed, and, you know, this defense is really going to need to step up. Offensively, I think, you know, Kenneth Walker is going to have another big game. Peyton Thorne's going to need to have another efficient game, not turning the ball over. You know, I think this is really going to be the toughest test so far of the season, going down there to Miami at a noon game, and, you know, that heat on a pretty big stage. You know, I think it's going to be a close game. I don't know necessarily if Michigan State is there yet to pull it off, but Miami has had its struggles, and they're showing, you know, vulnerabilities to. They were dominated by Alabama. They struggled against a good Appalachian State team, but a team that they should beat. So, you know, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. So I think this is going to be a real measuring stick of what we can expect from the Spartans this season.
Ryan, you mentioned the weather, and you had me scurrying for a forecast for Coral Gables on a Saturday, 88 degrees. So, of course, they play at noon Eastern. Shouldn't be the heat of the day, but close to it by the fourth quarter for sure. And your fair share of South Florida humidity mixed in. So I didn't look at the article, but I saw something online in a title where Mel Tucker is certainly preparing his troops for the heat in Miami.
Yeah, it's you know, being conditioned. They had an outstanding strength and conditioning program throughout the off season. You know, if you look on Twitter, there's just guys making like insane transformations with their bodies. You know, so I feel pretty good that way that they're going to be conditioned for it. But, you know, it's humid in Michigan, but it's hard to prepare for that kind of humidity and heat until you're actually there doing it. So, you know, we'll see how they're able to handle that.
Yeah, this is what I picked up on. They cranked up the thermostat at Michigan State's indoor facility during their preparations this week. Ryan O'Blennis on the line from The Only Colors, SB Nation, Michigan State. Check out his work and the rest of the crew over there on The Only Colors, breaking down Michigan State, Miami. I'm intrigued by this one. Should be a fun one. Ryan, we appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on.